Hello, everyone. My name is Marion with DTM Real Talk Channel. It's the channel that you can tune into, have the ability to listen to the thoughts of others about topics all over the world that touch every one of our lives. Everybody goes through basically the same thing. There is nothing new under the sun. So if you're going through, someone else has already been there. Maybe you can find hope. Maybe it's a pathway that can set you on the right road just by tuning in. So DTM Real Talk, just keeping it real. And if you like it, like us at the bottom, subscribe, and let us know just how we helped you. Just keeping it real. Nothing but love. Welcome again. This is DTM Real Talk. We just keeping it real. Y'all heard Marc, Pastor Marc, last week give us some powerful insight. Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it all on the difference in the way men and women think and different challenges and how we ought to be vulnerable and submission. I don't think that word submission is a dirty word. Last week, that is not a dirty word because God says submit one to another. But anyhow, y'all go back and check the clip out. If this is your first time chiming in, please like, share, and subscribe. And thanks so much for your support. Welcome back, Pastor Marc. Say hi to the good folks out there.
Hi, how are you, everybody?
Awesome. And they got to go back and check it out because I'm pumped, I'm excited. But we had a few more questions that I would like for you to ask. And you talked about the difference in men and women, how they think, how we think.
Right.
And also about marriage being 50-50 or 100 and what it really is supposed to be. Talked about that. And I thought that was very enlightening. So I hope you got your question answered, whoever sent it in to me.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, here's one. What are some common misunderstandings that arise due to gender-based communication differences, which is what you talked about last week, and how we can resolve them effectively? One more time.
Okay.
Misunderstandings that come about in gender-based communication differences and how we can resolve them effectively.
So there's one thing that men tend to do is think in solutions.
Okay.
And I don't, did we talk about this last week with the whole fixing thing?
Yes, you did, because men want to fix it. Women don't want
to. So that would be, I think, one of the biggest differences in the way that men and women approach each other is the whole, how can I fix this problem versus, no, I just want somebody to listen to me. I think the wife, more often than not, is going to, when she is talking about a problem, she just wants to know that her husband cares. But like we talked about last week, caring is a more female focused trait. Okay. And I don't think many people would argue about that, because you always hear about how a mother's love is the greatest love that you can come across. And dads, we go, hey, I love my kids too, but there is a different level of loving that my wife has for our kids. Like, her heart is wrapped up in their hearts, where I stand back and go, hey man, you need to get your act together and you need to do this, you need to do that. And they go, thanks, Dad, I appreciate that. Mom just comes up and gives them the biggest hug and, oh baby, I'm broken for you. And I'm just going, yeah, I'm broken too, man. But so there's definitely a different way that we experience life. There's no doubt about it. And again, just like we talked about last week, you just have to understand that your spouse doesn't think like you do. The other person in this relationship doesn't think like you do, and they shouldn't have to. I think we can overcome a lot of these things if we just get it into our heads. They don't have to think like I think. It's okay. God made me this way. And honestly, so my wife and I have been married for 32 years. It took us, I gotta back out and just tell a little story about my wife and I. So when we first started dating, we fought I don't know, we'd have a big fight probably every week. We broke up about 5 or 6 times in the 10 months that we were dating. And then we were engaged 10 months, and then we get married. And you think that, okay, now everything's going to work. Well, it didn't. We love each other and have always loved each other, and knew that divorce, when you get married, you need to, if you want it to go the distance, you need to take the word divorce and just say that's off limits. Right. You need to take some other things and say they're off limits. I never get to bring up that person's most treasured secret and use it as a weapon. Yes. Okay. You can't do that. I mean, you can't talk about their greatest fear and use it as a weapon. Just not allowed to. And you're not allowed to say words like stupid and dumb and all these things that you would use again. I've met so many couples, they don't understand why their marriage can't work. Well, they call each other the worst names you've ever heard. Who wants to love somebody when they're being called these things? So you need to go into it with ground rules. And my wife and I went into it with ground rules, but we still fought and we still argued. We're both very hard-headed people, and we both thought the way we saw things was the correct way to see it. I'll give you an example. When we first got married, we moved into this house. We fought over where to put the silverware drawer. This is one of the dumbest things. I look back now and I just think it's so stupid. But I grew up in a house with the silverware drawer on the left side of the sink. She grew up in a house with it on the right side of the sink. And we had the most wicked argument over who was right. Like there's actually a blueprint here where you could look up and it's, oh yeah, it's always on the left side. So I lost and I just walked out of the kitchen and never cooked again. But that's a different story. But so we had these fights. We would have fights where she would get out of the car, say, let me out of the car. And I'd be, no. And have to slow down on the middle of like the West Bank Expressway here. And she would just walk and I would do 5 miles an hour yelling, please get back in the car. Please get it back in the car for about 1.5 miles until she'd finally get back in the car. Those types of things all the time. Why? Because we both saw things differently and we thought the other person was wrong because they didn't see it our way. Okay. It took us, I'd say 5 to 10 years to finally come to the realization, you know what, things work a lot better when I don't make the other person have to see my point of view and have to agree with the way I see things. So what we do now is we agree to disagree on some items. Okay. I understand where you're coming from. I don't agree with where you're coming from, but look, it's not worth the fight. Right. Okay. Put the silverware drawer where you want it. I'm good with that. In fact, I'm not going to hate you for it. I'm not going to secretly be mad all the time. I'm just going to say, you know what? This is dumb. I don't need to win this argument. If you can get to the place in a relationship where you don't have to win the argument, and you can look at the long term and say, you know what? This person is more important to me than where the stupid silverware goes, right? They are more important to me. Then it's a seeing a big picture. It's a saying, you know what? I want this relationship to go the distance. When my wife and I said our vows, we said, till death do we do us part, right? And that's my desire. That's my goal. So in order to get to that goal, I'm going to have to figure out how to let her be her. And she's going to have to figure out how to let me be me as we both change. We grow together. A lot of people say, oh, he's not the man I married, or she's not the woman I married. Well, duh. You're not the person they married either, because we change. Right. There's no way not to change. So the question is, are you changing in a way that will allow you to grow closer to that person? Or are you changing in a way that's distancing yourself from the person? And are they doing the same? And if they are changing in a way that's distancing them from you, how can you work to show them that without pushing them away? Without coming at them saying, well, you don't do this anymore. Well, that doesn't help.
Right.
How about, hey, you remember when we used to, sit on the couch together and watch a movie and how much fun that was? Can we start to do that again? And just start there.
Right.
I don't even remember what the question was at this point.
Oh Lord.
Did I answer it? I don't know.
You don't cut that part out. I gotta find it because I don't remember. Wait, I had it right here. Which one of these was okay? Oh my God. Wait, okay.
Oh, yeah. What are some common misunderstandings that arise due to gender-based communication differences? I think we actually covered it. So I would say there's going to be a lot of things that arise from gender. And I know that you're talking in this series about a person's past and how their upbringing. So I think the bottom line is it really doesn't matter if this is a man-woman type thing, right? Because then we get into labeling stuff. Oh, you're acting just like the men I knew before. Well, that doesn't help anything.
Relationship with man, woman, boy, girl, mother, uncle, sister, brother, friends, whatever. That's
right. No, what I'm saying is it doesn't matter if the problem arises because I'm a man and she's a woman and we think differently, or my wife grew up in a single parent home. Her dad died when she was 6, so she was raised by her mom, and didn't know what it was like to have a dad growing up. So a lot of the things that we experienced when we first got married and when we first started having kids was she's not used to a man being the dad. And there were a lot of times I had to go, hey, you need to let me be the dad. Yeah, the authority business. Exactly. And I had to say, and another thing that arose from that was because her dad died early in age and her mother's dad left that family when her mother was growing up, there was this dread in the back of her head that somehow I was going to do the same thing, that it was just going to repeat generation after generation. And for at least the first decade, I had to convince her over and over, I'm not going anywhere. Right. I'm not dying, and I'm not leaving you. So we got to figure this out. We got to work this out because I'm not going anywhere. And so there's things that are going to rise just because you're two different people, not specifically because you're different sexes. Okay. But all of them have to be approached the same way. All of them have to be approached with they don't have to think like I do. I need to learn how they think more so that I can approach them differently. I don't need to force them to see it my way. I really need to take time to try to see it their way. So I think that's just the answer to a lot of the problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about communication. I just can't get away from
communication. Yeah.
About communication. It's funny because my children's father and I, we communicate a lot. We communicate about everything. It's like we didn't do this. We didn't do it.
No.
Yeah. Because
so what you're doing now, you didn't do back then.
Exactly. So it makes it better for me as I'm tunneling through the life's journey, and it makes it better for him as he's tunneling through life's journey.
Sure.
So it turns out pretty good. It's actually helped me to be able to build better relationships with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the same. It doesn't matter whether it's in the marriage relationship or it's any other relationship. You've got to know how to communicate.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So here's one. Let's see. What are key qualities
that I should look for in a friend or partner to ensure the relationship is built on mutual respect and trust?
You know, the first thing that came to mind is someone who's not self-absorbed. Because if so, let's say you sit down to eat a meal with this person, you're sharing a cup of coffee, something like that, and you're having a conversation. If you find that the whole time you're having a conversation, they keep cutting you off to tell you about their experience, then you're going to try to have to compete with their love for themselves. And you're never going to find that they care for you the way that you do. You may care for them greatly, but all they know how to do is focus on how they feel, their experience. And I mean, we all go through this to some extent. We're all self to some extent. But some people carry it to the extreme.
Yeah.
You're just not going to be able to have an equal relationship with somebody who is what we used to call narcissistic. Now it's just part of society, but that used to be a narcissistic personality.
Yeah. All about me. Right.
All about me. Me, you know, oh, wait, before we eat, let's take a selfie. You know, these things. Can't you put your phone down just for a minute because I would really like to share something with you, you know?
This is good. This is good. Let's do one more. Let's see. Ooh, this is a good one. How does unhealed trauma from the past, from past abuse, affect the ability to trust others in relationships? Hit a couple of those points. I actually have a young lady coming on to share. I don't know at what point, but she'll be coming on during this series to talk about that. So she wants to share how an abused relationship in her childhood affected her marriage, and it
Sure.
able to tunnel through it and get to a place of freedom today. But anyway, again, how does unhealed trauma from past abuse affect my ability to trust others in relationships?
I think the people who have experienced that unhealed trauma would be able to just flat out know it's affecting everything. Because when things like this happen in your past, and then God tells us that we're supposed to forgive. And there's this tension there because how can I forgive? Is forgiving saying that everything they did to me is okay? And then you don't know how to trust somebody new. We talked about being vulnerable the last time we talked. But it's key. God says you have to. Now, he's not telling you you have to forgive because he's trying to punish you for something that was done to you. He's telling you you have to forgive in order to know love. I can't fully know the love of God in my life until I'm able to forgive. He says, forgive as you've been forgiven. And he gives us examples. He gives us parables that show somebody who was forgiven a great debt, but they didn't forgive. And even in the Lord's Prayer, we forgive others, who have sinned against us. It's key. It's absolutely key to being able to experience love is to let go of the right to get back at somebody who hurt you.
Absolutely.
It's not easy. I'm not saying it's simple, but in order to experience wholeness in your life, you have to get to the point where you can just let go and let God be the judge. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean the person gets off the hook. It just means that you give up your right to be the jailer or be the executioner. You give up that right and you say, God is the one that's going to judge, and I'm going to put it in his hands so that I can experience his love, so that now I can love someone else freely and allow them to love me without in the back of my head always thinking they're about to do the same thing to me that happened before. I think also when we can get to that place, we experience that freedom, and then we actually are able to see the difference between people who want to use and abuse us compared to people who truly are compassionate and loving towards us. Because until we can let go of that past and let go of the bitterness, the anger, and just the being violated like that, until we can let go of all that, we can't tell the difference. I think that's why people wind up in the same abusive pattern over and over and over. And all the person's friends are going, why did you hook up with this person? They're horrible. But you couldn't see it, right? Because all that stuff in the past. So until you can just come and say, Lord, I need your forgiveness, and I need to forgive them, and I need to experience your love, Lord, until you can come to that place, I think you're going to just keep in that pattern. And so the key is forgiveness.
Yes. Amen. Wow. I'll share this because you're talking about it. When I was 19, I was raped, and I said that before in YouTube land. And it took me 45 years.
Wow.
45 years to forgive that individual. I used to, and after that 45 years, of course, during that time, I received Christ as Lord and Savior. And it wasn't until then that I realized I really was still bitter.
Right.
And God had to bring me to a place of forgiveness based on his forgiveness for me. And
Right.
it was until then that I began to pray for the salvation of that individual. I have no idea if he's dead or alive, but
Right.
I for his salvation.
Right.
It was such a freedom that came. It allowed me to be able to share with others, to let them know I do understand where you are. It's not just because I want to imagine it. I can think about the way you possibly felt.
Right.
So I thank God for that, and I'm thankful for you giving explanation to my to what happened to me.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, people can be monsters.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't mean that God is a monster. And that doesn't mean that God isn't there with love to help you overcome these things. It just means we live in a fallen society. Satan has a limited authority right now. Limited, and yet can be very effective in bringing evil into our lives. And so, you know, the ability to let go, like you've described, that's a gift of God right there.
The gift of God, just as it was a gift of God for him to let our sins go.
Yeah,
now,
that's right.
Cast them as far as the east to the west, to remember them no more. With that said, DTM,
Amen.
This is DTM Real Talk, and we just what? Keeping it real. We'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching DTM Real Talk. Be sure to join us for more conversation. And oh yeah, don't forget to hit that like button, share, and subscribe while you're there.